Representative Melanie Stambaugh. It is an honor to serve our 25th Legislative District in the Washington State House of Representatives. I am here to provide an update on our work in the legislature during these past special sessions. Just this last week, we completed the 2017-2019 operating budget. This did not happen in our regular 105-day regular session. Instead, it took 3 additional special sessions to come to a compromise agreement. The difficulty lies in the House, which is led by a Democratic caucus majority, and the Senate, which is led by a Republican caucus majority. Matching the priorities of these 2 chambers has proven to be difficult. While I do believe the legislature could have completed our work within the normal regular session, these 3 special sessions, I believe, have led to a better budget for Washington State. Originally on the table was a capital gains tax, a B&O tax increase, as well as a carbon tax. During negotiations, these policies were removed from the ending operating budget. Legislators from the House and the Senate were down in Olympia this past week working to ensure that we passed an operating budget prior to the end of the fiscal year, averting a government shutdown. We were successful, but the week has been very difficult. This 700-page biennium budget is what was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. There are great successes, and there's also great compromise inside this budget. I'd like to share a few details with you. This budget is $43 billion of spending. It brings in $2.6 billion from increased economic activity in our state and uses other new revenue sources. The challenges that the legislature faced in this biennium have been unprecedented, primarily because of our responsibility to complete funding of K-12 basic education and meet the state Supreme Court's McCleary decision obligation. This budget truly is a compromise budget. It continues funding for various government operations, as well as funds new policies and bills that have circulated through the House and the Senate chambers this past legislative session. I was disappointed that the negotiations happened so late that there was little time for us to share the details of the budget with our community. But I do believe that the budget overall is good for our 25th legislative district. The spending is $22 billion for K-12 education. This is a $1.8 billion increase from our last biennium. There's $14 billion that are spent on health and human service funding, as well as $3.8 billion for higher education institutions and financial aid for students, and then about $3.9 billion for other government services. More than 50% of this budget is dedicated to K-12 education funding. These education investments are also tied to important reforms for our education system. Education has been my top priority while working in the state legislature. Ensuring that we are equitably funding our schools and that the funds from the state level are making a direct impact in the classroom has been a priority. This budget makes significant steps in ensuring that that is the case for our students. In addition to increasing educator compensation, this budget also provides more professional learning days for educators. It increases their health benefit program, as well as puts accountability on how our local school districts are utilizing money. I've heard from educators, parents, administrators, and students about the needs in the classroom. What we found out is oftentimes the state funds those needs, but when they get down to the local level, they're used for other purposes. Because we've increased accountability and reform in this budget, we will ensure that the dollars we send from the state down to the local levels are used for those specific purposes. This includes funding to increase career and technical education for our students, reducing class size in these technical and vocational classes, as well as funding more bilingual education programs and special education programs. Since last summer, I've been working with other legislators to set forward a plan to finish our McCleary obligation. We looked at a variety of scenarios to increase educator compensation, as well as ensure education is funded equitably across the state. I'm proud that many of the elements we came up with are included in this education budget. Negotiators these past several months have spent hundreds of hours putting together the final education budget. What this means for the 25th legislative district is that we will see an increased investment for our local schools, at the same time seeing a net reduction in our local property taxes. Yes, that's right, a reduction in our property taxes and more for our schools. There is a property tax swap that occurs in this budget. What's important to know that the 25th district is what's called a net winner. The Puyallup School District, for example, will see a decrease in their property taxes at the same time by the 2020-2021 school year to see approximately $34 million more in our local school funding than what we currently have. I was proud to support House Bill 2242, the education budget that funds these incredibly important education pieces for students across our state. I know that our students' futures are stronger because of the investments that this legislature has made. As we round out the budget discussion, I want to share a few additional areas that this budget invests in. We in this community know that we are facing a homelessness and mental health crisis. Well, this budget makes key investments to increase community access to crisis walk-in centers and community health beds. There are increased opportunities for those with developmental disabilities to find employment. There's additional investment in our foster care system, as well as increased opportunities for law enforcement officers to go to their basic academy training so that we have more law enforcement officers in our community to keep us safe. While I don't agree with everything that is in this biennial budget, I do believe as a whole it is a good step forward for Washington State and especially for our 25th legislative district. The legislature continues to be in a third special session as we complete our work on the capital budget, which is an infrastructure budget for schools, mental health, and housing. The House has passed a comprehensive capital budget and it is awaiting action by the Senate. If you have any questions about the work of the legislature over the past several months during special session or about our operating budget, please don't hesitate to contact my office. It is truly an honor to serve our 25th district in the House of Representatives. Thank you.